graduated in 1979, and I actually, when I graduated, I left school and I decided to work, and I was a civil litigator in a big firm, and then I was a federal prosecutor here in the Central District of California for 14 years. Then after being out for about 20 years, I had my son at that time was 4 years old, and I wanted to take a break from what I was doing, and I took off for a couple of months, and I was completely depressed. And my husband said to me, Southwestern, you're an alum, why don't we go to the alumni reception? And I went to the alumni reception and I saw the dean, and I said, you know, if anything should ever open up in teaching, I would love to teach. And one thing led to another, and I began teaching at Southwestern in 1999, and I have been there ever since. And in 2006, I became the director of the SCALE program. So to say that I am biased about Southwestern is an understatement. I love Southwestern, and everything I say is true. It really is. It's in my heart. It's in my soul. It's a wonderful school, and that goes for all programs. I also want to introduce Kim Gonzalez, who I know many people have dealt with over the phone or an email. Kim is an extraordinary SCALE program coordinator. I truly do not know what I would do without Kim. And so she's to my left. I hope that you're seeing her in the same place. Lisa Gear, of course, our Dean of Admissions, is here. And Julie Spencer, who is extraordinary, our Associate Director of Admissions. And we have a number of SCALE students who I will introduce one by one once we get to the panel, but welcome to all of you and to everyone that's come this evening to learn a little bit more about Southwestern and the SCALE program. How many people have a good sense, just by a show of hands, about the program? You know something, you know a little bit? Okay, what I thought I would do, first was just give you a little bit of an overview of the program. I know we have a lot on the website. There are a few videos that you can watch. We're happy to talk with you about the program, but I'll just give you a little bit of an overview. And I'm going to share my screen so that you can see the PowerPoints. Can everybody see that? So I thought I would start with the picture over here to the left, which was our incoming class last year. To the far left, he's wearing a blue shirt, is Professor Bateman, who teaches in the SCALE program. He teaches legal research and writing. And one of the things about COVID is nobody knows how tall anyone is. And so none of the SCALE 1 students really know that I'm only 5 feet tall unless I tell them, because you can't tell from my box. But if you look at me, I'm right over here in the middle, and I'm surrounded by all of the students, every one of whom is taller than me. But have no fear, I was in federal court and I was the shortest one. Our students come from everywhere. We range in age from 20 to 40 something. Some years it's even older than that. So students are coming straight out of college. They've been out a year or 2 years or 3 years or 5 years, sometimes 10 years, and it's a complete career change. But in all instances, there's a goal to do law school in 2 years, to be part of the cohort, to get a lot of hands-on experience, to have the opportunity to do externships and honors programs, and everything else in 2 years. So one of the things I want to go through is how that is possible. One of the questions I get all the time is, how is that possible? We've set up a program where it's doable. And when we have our SCALE panel, our SCALE students will share with you how they do it. They are pretty adept at time management, and I think that's made a big difference for them in terms of sharing everything. One of the things that I think is most important is that the SCALE students are motivated to do things in a very organized way so that they can make it all work. And the way that we've organized the program, let me just show you, is on a quarter basis. So how many people here have been in school on a quarter basis? Okay, so you'll see, and I'll show you, this is our organization for this incoming year. We are starting on June 14th, about 2 months before the traditional program. And as you can see, we have 4 periods in the first year and 4 periods in the second year. Our Scale 1 students right now have just completed recently their exams in period 2, celebrated Thanksgiving with their families, and they are here in period 3. Even though it doesn't look like you have a break over the December holiday, you do. There is a 3-week break this year. And so this first year begins in the middle of June and ends in the middle of May when our traditional students finish their first year. By starting 2 months early, the SCALE students are able to accomplish more in their first year. They are taking approximately 10 or 11 units each of the first 4 quarters. And when they are finished this first year, they have 44 units, which is about halfway through. You need 87 units to graduate. Now, in the second year, the students actually don't come back until August, and they will graduate with their traditional counterparts in May. Again, the program is 4 quarters. Does anybody have any questions about anything I've said yet? Every time I put up my participant window, I don't know why that's not working right now. So if you have a question, raise your hand so I can see you, okay? One of the things about the SCALE program is that we have a summer session in between the 2 years. Some people have asked me about externships. Will I have enough externships when I do the SCALE program? And I want to assure you that you will. Many of our students will do 2 externships while they're a part of SCALE. One of them is in the summer between the 2 years, and the other is a guaranteed externship in the last quarter. Okay, which means in these 2 years, you can spend up to 4 months in 2 different externships. And that's a lot of hands-on activity and learning. So I wanted to show you the first year, just so you can get a sense of what it looks like. Very intentionally, I teach in the first quarter. I interview a lot of the students. Professor Bateman does a lot of interviewing with me and Professor Grimes. But I am very anxious to get to know everybody really well. And so I teach torts, which is a 4-unit course. We meet 3 times a week from 10 to 12. While we were, learning virtually this year, I would open up my classroom at 9:30 and I would have office hours, from 12 to 1:30. And I feel like despite the fact that we were online, I did get to know everybody. Legal research and writing is the other course in contracts. Significantly, there are only 3 substantive courses in your first period. And so we really want to give everybody a chance to get acclimated. And during this time, there is a lot of support and help. There are teaching assistants. The professors have open office hours. There is a Dean's Fellows program, which are second-year students that help the first-year students. And we have a course that helps students learn a little bit about reading cases, briefing cases, outlining, learning how to prepare for exams, so that there is a sense of competency and having a sense that you can begin to know what's expected of you and how to do it well in this first quarter. There are only 2 exams, and then you pick up approximately 4 courses. The foundations course, this is only a couple of hours that completes here. So it's really contracts, evidence, legal profession, and criminal law. And that approach takes place throughout, which is that you will be taking 4 courses every quarter. So in a traditional program, you're typically taking 5 courses. in 14 weeks. In SCALE, you're taking 4. In a 12-week quarter, where 10 weeks are instruction and the last week or so is for exams.
Dean Rolnick, we have a few questions in the chat that might fit in perfect here. One is, to clarify, each period is 10 to 11 units, 87 units needed to graduate.
Right.
And then the second question is it possible to take more units if you want to fit in more electives? How does that work with SCALE?
Okay, the electives, the first time that you have an elective choice in SCALE is in the last quarter. This year, students can take copyright, negotiation and dispute resolution, or agency and partnership. The next time you have elective choices are in the summer. So in the summer between the 2 years, there are a number of courses that are offered at Southwestern in the evening. SCALE students can take up to 2 of those. Okay, alternatively, you could take an externship and a course, or you could do summer abroad. You could work at a law firm, have that approved as an externship, and get paid. And so the summer provides an opportunity for electives. And then in your second year of SCALE, don't let this overwhelm you. There are some required courses like con law, community property, a bar course, but then you get choices. You could take the SCALE electives or traditional electives. And in the second year, you have up to 4 electives that you can take. And then finally, you get to choose, the category of externship you would like. Would you like to work in government? Would you like to work with a judge? Would you like to work in a law firm? Would you like to work in an entertainment venue or in a corporation? All told, you would have more than 17 units of elective choices in the SCALE program, which allows any student in SCALE to participate in one of the 5 concentrations that we have at Southwestern. So we get a lot of students that are interested in entertainment. We get a lot of students that would like to do a concentration in that, or a concentration in criminal law, or civil litigation, or public interest, or entrepreneurship and technology. And so we've created enough flexibility in SCALE that with your elective choices in the summer and in your second year, and taking into account your externships, that you can focus on a given area or even complete one of our concentrations. If there are any questions in the chat, I'm going to rely on you, Julie, to articulate those, okay?
Okay, we do have one more. How does the summer abroad work under normal circumstances? And I'm assuming normal meaning non-COVID.
Right. So Southwestern has a summer abroad program in London, and that's geared towards entertainment. But there are law schools all over the country that sponsor summer abroad programs. If the law school is ABA approved, a student can obtain approval from our Dean of Students office to attend that summer abroad program. And they're typically 3 to 4 weeks. They could take place in anywhere in the world. The units or courses that you take will transfer back to Southwestern as credit, no credit, and will help you satisfy the units that you need for the summer. So basically in the summer between the 2 years, you're writing a paper and then you can satisfy the units in one of the ways that I just described. Can you, did that answer the question about the summer abroad program? Okay. The, the program all told is intended for somebody that can organize their time. And I think what makes SCALE doable is committing yourself to the program. It does not allow for a student to work. It really doesn't. I think all of our SCALE students will share that with you. Maybe in the second year a little bit, but in the first year, your head is down, you're going to classes, you're studying, but once you get better at it, you are able to integrate participation in the honors programs that we have, law journal, moot court, negotiation, trial advocacy honors program. The students do participate, or in clubs and organizations. So there is room, but you are spending 3 to 4 hours a day in class and approximately 4 hours or so studying. And when you're taking finals, more. And so it's much like a job that you love, that's very intense, but it absorbs you, it will absorb you. I'm going to try this participant window again.
Dean Ronick, you do have another question. Are international or comparative law options for the elective?
International business transactions is an elective. Is that what you said? Was that the question?
Yes, if there are options for international and comparative law in the elective.
Southwestern offers a large number of electives. If you go onto our website, you will see a list of electives in all different areas, including international law. The SCALE student who wishes to take a traditional elective may do so, provided generally it's given at night. And many of our electives are in the evening because we have adjunct professors that are teaching them. And so in your second year, you were able to take up to 3, some students have even taken 4 traditional electives in order to expand the areas that they're focusing on, including international law. I wanted to show you a couple pictures here. One of the things about SCALE is we are a cohort. And even though we had the biggest cohort we've ever had in the history of the program this past year, people get to know each other really well. They get close to each other, and we try to facilitate that. So, in addition to class, we've set up some alumni panels, we've had happy hours, we have a mentor-mentee program. I mean, when it was not COVID, I would have all the students at my house before SCALE began. We would have events at school, we would go to other professors' homes. I mean, the goal was to really make it very, it's a very warm group of people, and we wanted, keep the connection strong among each other with faculty and students. And so I'm anxious to get back, but I have to say we've tried to compensate by doing, a lot of things virtually to keep the connections going. These are 3 of our SCALE 2 students who are not here in person right now. This is Eric, this is Joshua, this is Stephanie, and this is a backdrop at Southwestern. This just, they were displaying the fact that, I'm not sure what they were drinking, but a lot of our socializing deals with alums so that we can promote. You're getting to know the graduates. We've had about almost 1,300 graduates of SCALE and about 10,000 graduates of Southwestern. Here are some more of our SCALE students. This is Nicole, who heads up our trial advocacy honors program. And finally, I just wanted to say, people come to Southwestern, people do the SCALE program because of interest in multiple areas. Orly Gravid, who I interviewed in 2012, graduated in 2014 and came back and is now the director of our Biederman Institute, which is focused exclusively on entertainment and sports. Rourke Stacy Padilla, and I've taught everybody in here except for Barry Grodman, who graduated around the time I graduated law school. But Rourke Stacy Padilla was the trainer in the public defender's office, has helped the governor with legislation. And so, there is room for people with all different interests in SCALE. And I want you to, know that even though we are a 2-year program, we are able to accommodate the interests of everyone. I'm going to stop sharing. So are there any questions that I haven't answered, that you would like to know before we move on? Any questions? Yes, Sedona.
Yeah, I just wondered for students who maybe have a pretty good idea of like what area they want to focus on in law and had this idea that they were um, maybe going to try to take like a ton of electives and stuff. Do you think that there is a chance that like in the SCALE program, like is there any reason that a SCALE student would do less electives than a traditional 3-year? Or would you recommend like people with like maybe certain concentrations go for one or the other?
That's a very good question. When I became the director of the SCALE program in 2006, I would have answered you by saying, many fewer elective choices in SCALE. But over the last, 10, 12 years, we've made an all-out effort to maximize flexibility in SCALE. So think about it this way, there's 87 units to graduate at Southwestern, and that's the same regardless of what program you're in. And in every program, there are a number of required courses. All students are taking torts and contracts and property and, civil procedure or civil litigation and criminal law and con law and business associations. The required courses in SCALE are the same required courses as in the traditional program. When you subtract out the required courses, you're left with electives. And so in SCALE, if you added up the number of units of electives, it's very similar to traditional now.
Okay, perfect.
The difference is this: we have a set SCALE schedule, so that in your second year, con law is going to meet from 10 to 12, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and this course is going to meet at this time, and you'll be with your SCALE cohort for all of your required courses.
Mm-hmm.
Your elective choices must fit in to your SCALE schedule. We've made some accommodations by scheduling things in SCALE with knowledge of other electives. And for the most part, students are taking electives in the evening. And in that way, the students in SCALE, like traditional, have been able to create focus areas and concentrations. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, there's one, a couple in the chat. The first one is, will this recording be available later on?
Yes.
Next one is, when it comes to the application, what is the deadline for applying to the SCALE program?
We have had a soft deadline. Lisa, I'll let you answer that. I think it was April 1st, but there's some flexibility with that as time goes by.
Correct. So our official posted deadline is April 1st. I do want to say, though, that since that is nearly 5 months down the road, that doesn't mean wait until April 1st. So if your applications are ready or near ready, please submit them as soon as you feel like you've had a chance to look over them and you feel comfortable. Everything is on a rolling basis. So we are already making offers to all of our programs, or for all of our programs, excuse me. So with respect to the deadline, April 1st, if that means it comes in, based on your schedule, the 10th of April or the 15th, we're not going to turn away the application. Spoiler alert, after April 1st, we're going to move the deadline for everybody to May 1st. But, that really is just to incentivize you to get things in, as soon as they're ready, and as strong as they can be. The last LSAT for consideration for SCALE is officially the April LSAT, but really should be the February LSAT, sort of all things considered, just because the program does start sooner. So if you are planning to take the LSAT before the February one or on the February one, that's great. But if you're planning for April, all is not lost. So just make sure that you get everything in by the deadline if you are an April test taker.
Okay, I see a question in the chat about will we be virtual for the incoming class? And, you know, that's a hard one to answer. Being completely frank, I would say it's a substantial possibility. And that would probably be for period one. You know, what we all know right now is that, thank goodness, we have a vaccine that seems to just have been, you know, approved in the United States, and it will be distributed, and probably the students that will be in the SCALE program and at traditional will be among the last to receive it. So we could be talking about June, July. And I suspect that we wouldn't all be back on campus until the vast majority of people are vaccinated. But we have not made a definitive decision. I would love to be back on campus in June 14th. I would love that. I enjoy being in the classroom. I enjoy seeing everybody in person. I enjoy talking to you in person. But I just don't know. But as soon as we know, we will let you know. You know, we know that for everyone, it's an important decision, that the kind of decisions you make about where you live, when you move, what you do are contingent on that. And we are very sensitive to that. So we will let you know as soon as we know. I am anxious to introduce you to our SCALE panel because I think, you know, as I said earlier, there's such an insight to be gleaned from our students. So I'm going to start by introducing our SCALE 2 students and actually ask each one of them to just tell you a little bit about themselves and why they decided to do the SCALE program. And I'll start with Jesus.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jesus. So a little bit about me. I did my undergrad. I have a bachelor's in economics and psychology. And I ended up going to teach high school math in Las Vegas, where I pursued my master's. And so specifically why I joined SCALE is because I really like the idea of having a fast-paced law school degree. And so coming from the master's program while I was teaching simultaneously and running a business simultaneously, I felt that this was the best way for me to kind of go ahead and get my JD. So I've been extremely happy with the program. No regrets.
And Dean Rolnick did not talk you into it, is that right?
No, not at all.
Okay, Bree.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bree Blackledge. I am also in SCALE 2, along with Jesus and Megan. I'm actually from Philadelphia, so I graduated from Temple University in Philadelphia. I actually moved to Los Angeles just to attend Southwestern, just to do the SCALE program. I came here thinking that I wanted to do entertainment law. So that was really my big draw. If you Google Southwestern entertainment law program, it's one of the top in the country. So I was like, sign me up for it. After taking criminal law, and I am a part of the TAP team and getting more involved in that, my track has switched. So I am pursuing criminal law now. Just like Jesus, I wanted to do SCALE because I wanted to be in and out. I know that I want to be a lawyer, so I just kind of want to go ahead and get it done now. It's challenging, it's tough, it's equally as rewarding, and I also have no regrets joining this program.
Thank you. Megan.
Hi, everyone. My name is Megan Dry. I'm a SCALE 2 student. I'm pursuing civil litigation. Dean Rolnick did actually convince me to do SCALE, but I'm very happy I did it. I went in for a scholarship interview, and Professor Grimes and Dean Rolnick both spoke to me and talked me into it. And the reason why they were able to is because they spoke to how much the program prepares you to be a lawyer, and a good one. And I have no regrets during the program. I'm very happy to be here to explain my experiences to you.
Great. And then we have some SCALE 1 students who've only been in SCALE now about 6 months. And let's start with Jeffrey. Can you give us a little bit about you?
Sure. So I'm Jeffrey. Hello. I, just like Jesus, got my bachelor's in economics from Cal State Northridge. And I decided to come to Southwestern because, just like everyone else said, there's something about an intense 2-year program. You know what you want to do, and you know you have the willpower to get through it. So it's a really invigorating program. I love the closeness of having the same cohort for all my classes. It's no regrets. It's fantastic.
And Tasher.
Hello, everybody. So I'm one of those students that Dean Rolnick was referring to that graduated school and then decided to take a break My break for me was 10-year career in engineering. I have a bachelor's degree from Virginia Tech in mechanical engineering, and I am pursuing intellectual property law wholeheartedly. I chose SCALE because as an engineer who's been working forever, I'm not as young as some of the fellow cohorts that I am going to school with, and I really want to just get to it. And SCALE has given me not only an excellent opportunity from an excellent school, but that ability to transition rapidly, all bundled up into nice little well thought out curriculum.
Thank you. And Danny, I know you're here. I saw you before.
Hi, everyone. I'm Danny. I'm from Kansas. So my undergrad is in exercise science, and then I have a master's in business. And then I decided to go to law school. So I chose SCALE because, again, it's a fast-paced environment, and that's kind of what I enjoy, as well as the smaller, close-knit cohort, even online, where we get, the individual attention that we need.
So everybody keeps talking about it being fast-paced, fast-paced, fast-paced. And I know, one of the concerns among students before they come to SCALE is, okay, so how do you balance your life? How do you manage to get it all done? Are you able to sleep more than 3 hours a night? How do you do this, and is it really doable? So let's start with our SCALE 1 students who have just been faced with this adjustment. I'll go back to you, Jeffrey, and tell us how you've adjusted to this pace you keep talking about.
It's all about time management, to be honest with you. Yes, I do sleep more than 3 hours a night. I get a solid 8. You got to learn how to balance your free time. And to schedule your free time makes it sound less free, but you really do find more in every minute of the day to get more done, including relaxing harder. And the biggest adjustment was probably the homework at first. I think there's probably after classes a good 4 to 5 hours between homework and studying and outlining. But if you really plan your time right, you have plenty of time I go for nightly walks, have dinner with my girlfriend, get a full 8 hours. It's really just about time management. I can't stress it enough. It's about managing your time.
Good. Do any of the other SCALE 1 students have something you want to add to that? Have you figured out something in addition to what Jeffrey's done, Tasher?
Yeah, I take a lot of mini mental vacations where I'll take 15 or 20 minutes and unplug from every form of electronics that I can see and go and sit and stare at the sky or a tree or something, just to give my brain a break. And it's necessary, to be perfectly honest with you, because as Jeffrey pointed out, you really do. And as Dean Rolnick has claimed, you have to manage your time, and that's a lot of self-care. So adding those little breaks in there, that's really what I'd add.
And Danny, how do you do it?
So with my background in exercise science, I kind of have really focused on still continuing to do those sort of physical activity things. And as Jeffrey said, you have to schedule them in, so it seems a little more tedious, but it's kind of a nice break. It's like, oh, I have only 20 more minutes till I'm going to have a break. So you kind of are able to push yourself in smaller increments without being burnt out.
And how about our SCALE 2 students? Now you are balancing not only the program, but now you're involved in organizations, in acting as TAs, as Dean's Fellows, honors programs. How can you possibly do all of that? Jesus?
Sure, I definitely think it is time management, but for my undergrad, their unofficial motto was work hard, play hard. And so I think that really kind of incorporating that into my lifestyle as a Southwestern student is definitely helped me kind of push myself through the program. At first, it's a little bit of a learning curve, how you go about studying, how you go about, outlining and take your notes or whatever it might be. But once you get a handle on things, I think that you have to be proactive on how you study or how you go about learning. The other thing is just like, some of the other SCALE 1 or even I'm sure SCALE 2, they kind of set out blocks of time to do something that's really fun for them or recreational, whatever it might be. I build cars for a living as a side job. And so that's one of those things that helped me to kind of get through law school, because I was able to really focus a lot of this energy on something else and then kind of come back to it. And I think that you're going to always, kind of have this energy. And as long as you kind of expend it somewhere, someplace, as long as it's productive, you should be fine.
So that's, it sounds like everybody is finding an important way to do something in addition to the studying so that you can manage the demands of the program without going crazy. Marie?
Yeah, I don't have too much else to add. I do think that like the value of time management is definitely important, especially in scale. I think that the most important thing as you go along with it is to kind of like stay in your own lane a little bit. And when I say that, I mean, like, as you guys go through scale, it's going to be natural to want to like compare your study habits to other study habits of people in your cohort and things like that. Don't do that. Try to just focus on yourself, figure out a study routine that works for you. And just, I think that you should spend a lot of time focusing really on what you can do on the way that you learn, especially if you do that in scale 1 and it'll transition over into scale 2. If you want to start scale 1 and think that you're going to start and like be able to kind of like have it planned out and still have a social life for the first couple months, you honestly probably won't. But I think of it as like a time investment more than anything. Like you're investing the time, the energy into getting it together so that as you go through scale 1 and as you reach scale 2, you can afford to join those honor programs. You can afford to have those externships because you've already fairly managed yourself. You've given up a couple dinners and stuff in like early July, but it doesn't matter because now you figured everything out. So I just think be very intentional with your time, be very intentional with everything that you do. It seems kind of like type A. It's really not, but it's really just figuring out a structure that works for you and committing to that. I think that you guys will all be fine.
One of the things, people ask me about is the support that's offered in scale. And I know that Jesus, you, Megan, and Bari have been involved in some of the programs that we provide to the Scale 1 students. Why don't we start with you, Megan? Could you talk about some of the programs that you're involved in that are providing support to the Scale 1 students as part of the work that you're doing this year?
Yeah, absolutely. A few things I'm involved in. First and foremost, I'm a Dean's Fellow. That is an academic mentor that is assigned to a group of students. We are there to help you and assist you with every single class, outlining how to juggle it all, scheduling these blocks of times. I've sat down with many students and planned out these block schedules as everyone's been talking about. So that position, as well as being a teaching assistant to 3 professors for 3 different courses. And my role there is to help you with the substantive material and to answer any questions that you may want to pass by me as a softball before going to the professor for those who might not feel as comfortable right off the bat. Those are the 2 main ones, as well as just being a mentor through the Trial Advocacy Honors Program as a team that I'm on, and I'm a chairman of the board. I get the pleasure of being a mentor to students through that as well. And ultimately, I think that the hardest part about Scale is realizing that you need all these resources. So those are the ones that I'm in and I help with, but definitely use them if you decide to Scale.
Hey, Jesus, which the programs are you involved in? Are you a TA now?
Yeah, I'm a TA, specifically for Scale. I'm a TA, but also part of the mentoring program. And really, with the TA, I kind of just am there to kind of be almost like a mirror for some of the Scale 1 students. I could say, okay, this is what I have to look forward to. Although they might have questions, you might have questions, to reach out to your TA. More than likely, you do know the answer. You have the notes, whatever it might be. It's just one of those, I play the role of the person who really just helps you find it within your notes or whatever it might be. So that's more so, although the TA does have the academic portion, it's really more so of a mentorship program or mentorship idea.
Right. I'm going to skip back to the Scale 1 students for a minute. Do you feel the support that the Scale 2 students have been describing? How has that made a difference for you? Danny, why don't we start with you?
So I've taken a lot of advantage of both the Dean's Fellows, the TAs, as well as a mentor. They all kind of provide you with this support system that's academic as well as not academic. You can go in and just be like, I don't even know what questions I have. And they'll be like, okay, but I was there a year ago, so I know exactly what you're going through. And so that's really helpful to have somebody that's been there so recently and know how to help you navigate through those issues.
Right. Now, I think, Marie, you are working with Professor Gunning, right, in evidence. And evidence is a very fun course, but it's one of the more demanding courses, right?
Yes.
So what has been the experience then in having Marie as your TA for evidence? How has that made a difference in that course? Jeffrey?
Answer carefully, Jeffrey.
Answer carefully, Jeffrey.
Bree has answered my frantic questions at 8:30 p.m. more often than I'd like to admit. She is just always available there answering questions, breaking down the most complicated stuff. I gotta tell you, it's like having a personal tutor who's like just always there, always available. So I can't tell you how great it is.
And Tasher, tell us what the professors are like. You know, we've been talking about the Scale 2 students and the support they provide, but, you know, how would you describe, you know, the relationships that you've built with the professors in the program?
So it's kind of cliche to say this, but if you think back to like one of the opening scenes of Legally Blonde when she was getting her first experience with the Socratic method, and she gets thrown out of class. Scale professors are not like that. they will ask you tough questions, but they understand that you're not going to have the answers. So they help you figure out why you don't have the answer, what the correct answer is, and how to approach it better next time. And in doing so, you really form this like band of brothers, like they're in it to make you succeed kind of relationship.
Very nice. And you know, to add to what we've said, the professors do have office hours. So, you know, in addition to the time that students spend with the teaching assistants and with the dean's fellows, it kind of in the way that Tasher's describing it, the professors are accessible. They really do want to help students. And I think some students feel more comfortable going to a TA first or a dean's fellow first, making sure they understand everything. Then they're going to go to the professor and check to make sure they understand everything. But, you know, you could skip to the professors if you wanted to. So one of the other issues that comes up quite a bit is, in 2 years, can you really do externships? Can you really focus on things? Can you really, you know, create a concentration? You know, how do you manage to do all that? So I wonder if we could start with Bree. If I know you said you switched to criminal law, some of the things you've been able to do to promote that, and any externships that you've been involved with as part of your learning.
Sure. So I just want to start by saying that even before I decided to go to criminal law, I had more than ample access to professors who were still in the entertainment program. So I did sit down and meet with Professor Orley. So you can still, even if you're deciding, the SCALE professors, at least, those are the ones that I've talked to, they're so open and so willing to just sit down and talk with you. A lot of them had no idea who I was, and they still walked me into their office to discuss. So I just wanted to say, like, if you guys are kind of like me and you think you want to do one thing but aren't too sure, definitely talk to whoever you can. So for this past summer, all of our externships were remote because of Corona. But it actually worked out a little bit better for me because I went back home to Philadelphia, but I was still able to complete my externship with the district attorney's office. So that was completely remote. And at first I kind of turned my nose up at it because I wanted to be in person and do all those things. I actually think that I was given much more work and I had much more independence. I was able to obviously work remotely. So that experience was really great for me. I'm not exactly sure what I do to promote the DA's office, except just tell everybody that I work there and get the praise and recognition for it. I am going back there for period 8. And I do have an opportunity to go in and do it in person. So I do think that even though things are remote right now, I'm not sure how they will be for you all. That doesn't necessarily stop the flow of anything. And if anything, I believe that I might have been, it's probably just the luck of the draw, but I believe that I was a little bit more advantaged over the summer with this externship because of the remote option.
Jesus, what did you do this past summer?
So I was interested coming into law school. I didn't necessarily know exactly what I wanted to do, but I was definitely interested in federal Indian law. And one of the professors in casual conversation, I had brought it up, and she said, "Hey, you should speak with so and so, this professor." And that led me to another professor, and so on and so forth. And so ultimately, I ended up working for a nonprofit out of West Hollywood called the Tribal Law and Policy Institute. And although they don't necessarily take in clients, what they do is they work with tribes across the United States and in Canada, and draft laws for their own sovereign nations or their own sovereign tribes on the reservations. So much like Bree, I wasn't too sure that I wanted to be, virtual. I wanted to be more in person, kind of get this hands-on learning. But being able to be virtual allowed me to meet with tribes across the U.S., including tribes in Minnesota, Indianapolis, wherever it might be. Especially, on the backdrop of what was going on over the summer, it really was, eye-opening to see, how different parts of the country are really handling this political unrest, coupled with the idea that I was helping draft laws for people in their everyday lives on the reservations.
It's very interesting. I think so many people were so afraid that all would be lost learning virtually or doing externships virtually. I was in a presentation a couple days ago, and the head of our externship program, who is Dean Anahi Garkanian, she was telling us that 210 students did externships this past summer, the largest number that we've had, and a substantial share of them were remote. And so even though, it took everyone by surprise and we didn't expect to be doing things this way, I do think there will be some remote legal work when we return, when we are out of this pandemic, which has been an interesting learning experience for the students. But it's turned out to be much better than we could have imagined. Megan, what did you do this past summer?
Ironically, I swapped the opposite direction as Bari. I started out in criminal law, ended up going towards civil litigation. Not because I was avoiding her, love Bari, but I was working at the district attorney's office over the summer. My externship was affected to some extent, but I ended up getting a lot of research skills out of it, working at the DA's office. It was very interesting to see how the lives of defendants were affected by being quarantined, not being able to be arraigned, and various issues that were arising out of that are really important legal research topics that I got to learn more about. Next spring, I'm now working at the district court for a judge, which is also very exciting.
Good, that's great. And I know our Scale 1 students are right in the throes of putting together their applications, their resumes, and seeking externships for this summer. So I know they will be looking to you for guidance and input, right? I know, Danny, you're interested in entertainment, and I thought if you could speak to, some of the connections that you're making, even as a first-year Scale student, to try to set yourself up for success in that field and, with an externship in the summer, et cetera.
Yeah, of course. So as Dean Rolnick had said, she wanted to get to know all of us. And I went into her office in like the second week of Scale and was like, okay, what do I need to do for the next 2 years? And so she gave me a list of people to contact. And I've most recently connected with one of them who's a big entertainment individual in the industry. And he's kind of taken me under his wing. And in the past 2 weeks, I've probably spoken to 10 different people in the industry. Some are Southwestern alum and some are not. So they really provide you that opportunity to speak to people from Southwestern who love to talk to you. They love talking to students at Southwestern, as well as putting you in contact with someone that may not have gone to Southwestern.
I know, there's the relationship with alumni is something that we really encourage students to take advantage of because, as Danny said, the alumni feel a special sense of camaraderie and identification having once been a Scale student. Once a Scale student, always a Scale student. And I've been reaching out to alumni of late because I wanted to set up panels in different practice areas. We did one in criminal law. We have one in civil litigation that we're going to have in January or late January. And to a T, as soon as I make the request, the alumni comes back and says, yes, I would love to do that. And so I think for students, for incoming students, regardless of whether you're beginning in the middle of the program or the end, it is an important network, to take advantage of. And I think, I know that Tasher's starting to reach out and connect with alums. I know that Megan has been doing that. And so I just want to say that's one of the values of a close-knit program, that sense of identity that people will have. It's the kind of added desire to give back. One of the other issues that came up was elective choices. Do you feel like you've had enough choice in the program? And so I'm going to go back to the Scale 2 students, and ask you, has it been your perception now that you're in your second year where you've had an opportunity, to make some choices, whether you've been able to do that with enough flexibility in the 2 years? So let's start with Megan on that one.
I think it does take some management on your part. It takes a lot of communication. I work closely with Dean Rolnick, who's helped me a lot trying to figure out schedule alternatives for certain opportunities that could pop up over the summer. You can accomplish a lot of what you want. The only thing is that you have to be selective in what you're trying to add on to your schedule. But it is possible. The electives that I took were the law review staff member position, as well as the trial advocacy honors program, which are units that are not typically in the SCALE program, but I was able to manage to get them into my schedule by talking to law review, letting them know when SCALE finals are, what the SCALE schedule looks like, and then also, again, working with Dean Rolnick to see where we can incorporate things that aren't normally put into the SCALE schedule that can be added. It just takes communication, but you really can accomplish a lot.
How about you, Jesus? Did you feel like you had enough flexibility in the program?
Definitely, I think even more so over the summer, you have the option, especially with the externships, to take an externship, I believe from 2 to 6 credits or whatever it might be, and whatever time you have left over, you can pick up any electives that are available during that time. I know, at least for myself, and I think potentially I want to say Bree as well, we had reached out to Dean Rolnick and we decided if we can kind of swap out some classes from period 5 over the summer, whatever it might be, to really fit as many things as we wanted into our schedule as possible. And then even coming into the fall and the spring for Scale 2, I was able to take the electives that are typically offered to the traditional students. The electives that I chose are both held on Saturday, and although at first I was hesitant to take those electives, I really do enjoy and appreciate the fact that I was able to take those on Saturday, because it did allow me to kind of play with my schedule a little bit and set up time so that I can continue to reach out and network and do other things outside of the law school classroom that are also as imperative to the law school environment as well.
And Marie, how about you? Did you find the flexibility you needed?
Absolutely. I agree with Jesus that it especially felt more so over the summer. Once you finish those first, I believe it's like 3 periods of SCALE at that point, your schedule does open up a little bit more. And then at that point, you have a little better of an idea of your interest. So you can be a little bit more intentional about the election or about the electives that you do decide to pick up. I chose something in period 5, I believe, which was directly tailored to criminal law. So I'm appreciative that I was able to kind of like take some time and get through those necessary courses first. And then after Scale 1, you definitely do have more opportunity to kind of like pick and choose different classes tailored to you. So I definitely think that the options and the possibilities are fully there.
Right. And now the first year students, do have an elective choice in this first year. What did you decide this first year to take as an elective, Jeffrey?
I'm going with copyright because I want to do the concentration in technology.
Danny?
I'm taking copyright as well.
You're taking copyright. Tasher?
Same.
Same. Okay, good. And just so you know, it was very intentional. We made copyright an elective so that students that wanted to do entertainment or technology or anything like that would be able to take that prerequisite early enough so that they could build with externships and more advanced electives, having gotten that one under their belt immediately in SCALE. Okay, so what advice will you give? Do you wish you had known when you came into SCALE? If someone had just told you this, what would that be? Is that a hard question? I'm going to start with Tasher. What would have been helpful to have known? What advice would you like to have gotten from someone?
It would have been really helpful to have invested in stock in highlighters. uh, and to find one that works well for you, because I would not have believed this before SCALE or law school really, but highlighters are very personal. What works for me doesn't necessarily work for everybody. So, but definitely buy a lot because you're going to use them. And for us, because we've been online so much, make sure that you have a comfortable place to work, that you have a lot of desk space where you can both sit and stand. Those two things are going to be really critical because you're going to spend a lot of time having this relationship with your computer screen, and you need to preserve your health while you do it. And having space to spread out and work is really important.
I know you're not showing your setup that we normally see, where you have, everybody has a very interesting setup. And just to, build on that, before you start law school, you should have everything done. If you have a to-do list, start checking it off so that when you start, you don't have a to-do list that's kind of hanging on your head of things. Go to the dentist, take care of the things, clean out your closet, take those books back, whatever it is, take care of it. And then figure out a workspace, like Tasher said. I think, that is your workspace. And the more you treat this like a job, the better. And so having a good workspace is a critical first step. What do you wish you had known, Jeffrey?
What I wish I would have known, I feel like I was told it 100 times. I wish I would have taken seriously the suggestion, just get into the habit of reading before law school. I mean, if you can, just get into the habit of being used to reading. And if you need to update your readers because you're going to use them quite a bit. Aside from that, I would say, she already mentioned you have to be in a comfortable space, have good desk space, have good internet. Like, test your internet early, upgrade your internet early, especially for Zoom. I know I personally had to upgrade my plan in that first 2 weeks of law school. So,
Danny, any advice you wish you had had?
Mine's a little bit of a different route. Mine's kind of, and it's a constant reminder, is just to have patience and be kind to yourself, because this is hard and nobody told you it was going to be easy, but they told you could do it. And so it's just constantly reminding yourself that you will be able to do it and being okay with not getting it the first time.
And that's really true. I think one of the things most of the people that go to law school have done well in undergraduate, and it is, you have a certain sense of competency and getting things quickly and doing well and being at the top. And so appreciating that it's a learning curve and that it takes a little bit of time, and being forgiving and not angry with yourself if you don't get it immediately, just allowing yourself, to take the time to learn. It's really important.
Dean Ronick, we have a question for our SCALE students in the chat, and that is, what type of computers would you guys recommend? And also, which note-taking software do you guys recommend for law school?
Who would like to take that one?
So I think I'll take this.
Yeah.
Yes. No, I already started, Jeffrey.
Why don't we all take it?
Because I don't have a MacBook. So I feel like a lot of people are going to say like, oh, you should get a Mac and da-da-da. I have a Windows Surface laptop. It's a great computer. It's really good. It's touchscreen, all the things. So and I did do research beforehand, like best computer for law school and all these different things. If you guys have a MacBook, I'm sure it'll be fine. If you don't have one, I think that you could definitely do law school without it. I think that so long as you make sure, this is going to get where it's a little too technical for me, but as long as you make sure like the processor is up to a certain speed and you have a certain amount of memory, you're going to be more than fine. So my laptop is brand new, but it's not a MacBook. It's been doing pretty well. So I just say that to say, like, everybody usually is like, get a Mac, get a Mac. If you don't want a Mac, you really don't need to have one, so long as, like I said, your memory and the processor are good. On this computer, I just use regular Windows, like Microsoft Word, or I'll do Google Docs. Sometimes Google Docs is good because I can just go back and kind of like alter things. You can play around with the fonts a lot. But just typical regular note-taking apps. And I'll let everybody else with a MacBook jump in and give their perspective.
Megan, you were going to say something.
I have a MacBook, but I actually wanted to emphasize that, you know, it's going to be up to you. Some people like to start out handwriting. Almost everybody switches to typing at some point just because of the space and being able to store your notes for future use when you look back at them as a teacher assistant or you look at them for the bar. Whatever you do use, I do recommend that you find some way of storing your notes after you're done using them. Laptops crash. It happens all the time, regardless if it's MacBook or not. So, you know, using Google Docs, like Bari said, having some kind of mechanism set up to where you're backlogging all of your information is highly recommended, because taking a final after your notes get erased is a terrible thing.
Okay. You know, one of the questions that I noticed in the chat is about, you know, being in SCALE and having a family. You know, how do you balance family? Do we have that kind of a situation? You know, well, Megan, I think you can share that in the middle of SCALE, you got married. So I always say, you know, yes, you can have a life in SCALE. People get married, people have children. I know you haven't had any children yet, but you did get married, right?
I did get married. I have a dog, if that matters.
Lots of animals. But, you know, I don't think we have anybody here that has children, but we definitely have students in SCALE with families with children. We've had single parents in SCALE. And I think it's the same thing that everyone's been describing. You know, regardless of what your other responsibilities are, it's being mindful of those and figuring out a way to manage your time so that you can prioritize the things that are important to you. And obviously, if you have a family and you have children, I mean, I'm thinking of one student in particular who, you know, we were able to modify her schedule a little bit when it became clear that she was going to be helping her son, who was at home learning during this pandemic. That added stress she wasn't expecting. We had the flexibility to do some modifications, which we did. But, you know, for the most part, when kids are in school, that works out okay. But we've had people with young children in the program.
I believe, Dean Rolnick, we have one current SCALE 1 student who had a baby less than 30 days before the start of the first term of SCALE. And he's still here. He's still alive. I swear, I saw him today.
That's Daniel Naftalovich, right? Yeah. In fact, you know, there is a student, his name is Carrie, and he had a baby at the beginning of SCALE, and then he had a baby right before SCALE ended. So he has bookend children. You know, what I haven't mentioned, and I keep thinking I should do this, you know, one Valentine's Day, but there are people that have met in SCALE, of course, and fallen in love. And I was going to do a Valentine's Day of all the people that have met, you know, had children. We've had SCALE 1 students meet 1 students, 1 students meet 2 students. Yeah, we've had some marriages that, you know, so it's an all service program. I just want you to know that, you know.
Dean Rolnick, I have to jump in real quick because I know our time is slowly but surely going away. I have a question in the chat for the current students. And this kind of piggybacks on somebody's question earlier when they were asking about if fall 2021 will be potentially online with COVID. Anyway, so this is for the current SCALE students. Have you, and even you, Dean Rolnick, or the faculty, noticed any negative student experiences as classes are online during COVID? I ask this because I've taken a couple classes online in the past and didn't perform as well as being as present as in the classroom. Do you guys have any tactics or strategy recommendations to overcome this that you've done, you know, this semester? How have you remained to be successful?
Who would like to take that one?
I can take that one. So I have to say that negative aspects, no. In fact, being online for me has been a huge help because of where I live in relation to the school. And I don't know if anybody's experienced Los Angeles traffic in person, but if you have, you know. But I have to say that it does require a lot of self-discipline. You have to remind yourself, stay committed, stay focused, pay attention, develop a strategy for what happens when that breaks down completely. And most importantly, and this is what makes it slightly challenging, you have to find your own way to be private. You have to have your own space. That could be a corner of a room or a whole room or a room in somebody else's house. And Dean Rolnick, I know you've talked about a couple of students who have, during finals, have gone to an Airbnb or gone to a relative's house to have their own space. But that's really critical. And that's the only really challenge that I think I would have struggled with adapting to this situation. But it is doable, but it's really important.
Anybody else want to add to that?
Yeah, I'll add to that. As someone who experienced SCALE both in the classroom and outside the classroom, and as someone who still isn't a fan of online classes, I can't say that there's no negative to it, because there's nothing like being in a classroom and feeding off of the energy of the people around you and being able to pop into your professor's office with them being there in person. There's a lot of great alternatives with Zoom. I think ultimately Zoom is preparing us for a future that's going to happen regardless. We're not going to go back to normal entirely, and you're going to get a lot of experience being a professional over Zoom by starting out your law school career on Zoom. That's one of the positives, at least. But as for how to manage the negatives, I find that really setting the tone on how you approach your classes, being really self-aware what your mental health is like while being home for so long. Realistically, my class has been online since March. So we're getting to that point where it's been a long time where we've been indoors. We've all been indoors for so long. So just being really cognizant of your mental health and what you need. Personally, I try to break things down into smaller tasks. It makes me feel like I'm accomplishing more just by breaking it up more. But I mean, it helps you deal with things minute by minute, day by day, however slow or minor increments that you need in order to get a large magnitude of class, studying, extracurriculars, honors programs, and keep up with all of that. So it is possible, but just recognize it's going to be different for everybody. And it takes for you being self-aware of what you need to know what tips and tricks you can create for yourself. But that's resources that the school is going to have for you. We have a psychiatrist that is available to you to speak with. And we also have your dean's fellows, professors, TAs, upperclassmen in general, who are all willing to give you tips as you start out your law school career. So definitely speaking with people once you get in and start realizing what you need is important.
And I just want to add, Southwestern's been also very supportive of faculty in helping them ensure that they can do a good job online. Before I started teaching in June, one morning, what arrived were 2 big monitors, a laptop, and a set of instructions that were completely over my head as to how to set up the 2 monitors and the laptop so I could do Zoom and have, the second monitor to use. So my husband and I, and he is also a SCALE alum, we've been married 31 years. I felt like it was a real test of our marriage to work to set that up together, but somehow we got through that. And there have been, so many, different programs that we've had, for professors to help them augment their teaching, to make their teaching more exciting. I taught 30 2-hour classes in torts. And when I was finished, I went, oh my God, I didn't miss a beat. That was unbelievable, right? It's right, it's true. And, I think all of the professors have been trying to figure out ways to make their teaching palatable online. We're all using Canvas. I don't know how many of you have used Canvas, that learning management system. I think that's helped students. I started making PowerPoints available sooner. I added discussion questions and little quizzes and broke up our cohort into small groups that changed every single week so that you could get to know everybody in the cohort. And I think we just were all being very mindful of what to do to facilitate the process, in addition to what each student had to do for themselves. I would like to introduce to you a very special person who I've been watching nod her head as she's been listening to all the students, share about themselves and how they navigated. Suzanne Kuntz is the Associate Director of our Financial Aid Officer. And I have to say, Suzanne epitomizes the attitude of our administration, which is to be helpful, to be helpful, to be helpful, and really try to solve problems in a very kind and incredibly efficient way. And so, Suzanne, you're welcome. Would you share a little bit about the financial picture for the students and give them a little bird's eye view of what they could be facing as far as that?
Sure. We have there it is. Woohoo. So this is, I have 2 slides I wanted to share with you, just because some of you have had experiences with financial aid in your undergraduate or even a master's program, and you're going to find it's a little different here. First of all, you'll get to know me very well. I think I know pretty much everybody that is a current SCALE student, and some of you I even talked to today. But essentially, financial aid at Southwestern includes scholarships, loans, this year grants, but usually not grants, and federal work study. And of those 4 things, you can obtain enough funding to get whatever you need to go to school. For some students, that's just a little bit of tuition. For some students, that's everything from the food they're eating to the rent they're paying, everything that they need. So for those students who are coming to Southwestern, we have scholarships. Some of you will be negotiating your scholarships with the admissions office, not with me. I'm more than happy to talk to you about them, but I don't have anything to do with scholarships other than say, woo, you got one. So you'll work with the admissions office for your entering scholarships. And the merit scholarships that we offer are based almost entirely on your grades and your admissions negotiations and your LSAT score. LSAT score is huge. And then for our continuing students, we do have some students who do very well in class. And if you rank in the top 30% of your class, you'll also qualify for a merit scholarship. Now you'll get, if you have an entering scholarship and then you get a merit scholarship, you get whichever one's bigger. They don't pile on each other. And you can get all the way up to your entire tuition with scholarships. So it really depends on how well you do in school. There are also additional scholarships available to our continuing students, so not in your first year, but in your second year, that are institutional scholarships. And those scholarships are based on non-merit criteria for the most part. So just because you aren't doing fabulously in school and you're not in the top 30%, that does not mean that you will not qualify for another scholarship. As far as federal student aid goes, they're still governed by the FAFSA, which is just an acronym. Government loves acronyms, and it stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. The one you'll be filling out for next year, even though it starts in June, is the 21-22 FAFSA, and that's going to be based on your 2019 tax return. Now, if you don't file taxes because you didn't make any money in 2019, don't sweat it. That's fine. There's a little box that you're going to click that says did not work, etc. Once we have your FAFSA, then you'll get a financial aid offer letter from the financial aid office. If you haven't received a financial aid offer, you can email me and I will answer. And I will let you know why I haven't got you a financial aid offer letter yet. So many times though, when I have a student who has enrolled and I don't have a FAFSA on file, I'll shoot you an email and say, hey, I'm missing a FAFSA. Do you want aid? And you share with me whatever's going on. I'm more than happy to help out. You control your loans. While we will originate them for you at your request, you do not have to apply for the loans yourself. We will take care of that for you. All you need to do is a little bit of paperwork, and that'll be on the next slide. There are a bunch of online documents that we'll send you instructions for. Probably the most important thing I could tell you about those online documents and the FAFSA itself is that you need to make sure that you remember your username and your password. They're getting easier and easier to regurgitate, but it's a really good idea to keep that handy. As far as the loan documentation, and I'm your loan gal. If you ever have any questions about loans, please definitely come talk to me, or about anything to do with money or numbers. So studentaid.gov is the website that covers everything now. This changed last year. They do everything from beginning to end and even after you graduate. And they're a phenomenal website. They're getting better all the time, but as government websites go, it does crash on occasion. The couple things that you have to do, and this is new this year. First thing that you must do when you enter a graduate program or Southwestern, actually both, you have to do this specifically for Southwestern, and that is you need to do your entrance counseling. And I want to warn you, for those of you who do that, don't sweat it. Entrance counseling is a piece of cake, and they don't even pay attention to what you put on those answers. So entrance counseling for graduate students, they're just going to explain a little bit about the loans, and it's required. The second thing that you have to do is a master promissory note for each loan that you wish to obtain. There's two kinds. One's called unsubsidized loan and one's called a Grad Plus loan. When you complete your FAFSA, they're only going to tell you about the unsubsidized loan. Don't panic. You'll get more than $20,500 in aid if you need more than $20,500 in aid per year. The unsubsidized loan and the Grad Plus loan, between the two of them, you can cover pretty much anything. I do have students who have absolutely no outside help whatsoever. They need every dime that it takes to live and go to school and tuition, books, rent, food, personal, you name it. They need every dime, and you can obtain that as long as your credit's good enough. If there's one thing I would tell you to do right now is clean up your credit, if you possibly can. Federal government does require that you have okay credit. It doesn't have to be beautiful. You don't have to have an 800 or even a 700 credit score. You just can't be behind in bills. And you most certainly could not have defaulted on a federal loan and not rehabilitated it. You can default on a federal loan. As long as you're rehabilitated, they'll actually talk to you again. And then the last thing, and this is brand new for this year, there's an annual student loan acknowledgement that must be completed every year by every student from now on, starting in probably May. And so all that is if you have loans on file with the federal government, they're going to want you to take a look at them and to assure them that you have taken a look at them so that you are not surprised at the end of your program that you owe money to the federal government. So as far as information, I can send you anything you need. I've made all kinds of handouts and helpers, etc. If you have a question, if I don't have an automatic thing I can shoot at you, I'll just talk to you on the phone about it. If you ever have any concerns, I'm here for you. And my email, it's really easy. It almost looks like skunk, doesn't it? But it's SKUNZ, and that's at southwestlaw.edu. And I am just a phone call away, although I do prefer working with emails because then I can look back to see what we talked about before. And if you ever have any questions, I'm here. You can either shoot me an email after this presentation if you have a specific question, or you can ask here. I'm happy either way.
Are there any questions that anyone wanted to ask just generally of Suzanne? Okay. You know, we've talked about a lot of different things this evening. I know we've talked about the program and the way to navigate the program and the finances of the program and all the ins and outs. We have about 10 more minutes, and we've got our 6 students standing by. Suzanne's here, Lisa's here. So Kim is here. Are there any questions that anyone has before we break for this evening? You know, we would like to address those and make sure that you feel that you have a good understanding of how things work, of what the highs and lows and the positive and negatives might be for you, and you know whether you can fairly assess whether this might be a program that's a good fit for you.
I actually have a question for Suzanne that might be helpful to everybody incoming, because a lot has changed between 2019 and now. So for incoming students that may have gone through a pretty big change in circumstances between their 2019 tax return and their current financial status, what should they do?
Don't worry about it. There is no need-based aid in grad school, which is great. So be totally honest on your FAFSA. You do not need to put your parents' information on it. So we don't care what kind of circumstances you came from. And the only people who are affected by higher income back in 2019, and they're not doing so well now, are those who are making over 300 grand. So honestly, don't sweat it. It's fine. And even those people who are making substantial income and then come to school and drop that substantial income, the only thing that's really affected is whether or not they can work as a federal work study student and obtain funding for it. So I have some students who have had that kind of income and they're now in school, and I'm not able to get them a compensated position through federal work study. But quite frankly, with that kind of income, I don't think you really need a $15 per hour job anyway. So it works out. They can still work as a dean's fellow. They can still work as a teacher's aide. I just can't compensate for them with a federal program. But loans are fine.
Any other questions? All right. Well, I just want to say, I know this is an important time in your lives. I know it's a big decision in terms of which law school to go to, which program is best for you. We are very open at Southwestern. I hope that you will, feel comfortable reaching out to any of us, whether it's me or Kim or Lisa or Julie or Suzanne. The students are happy to speak with you. I know all of the students that are here this evening would be happy to speak with you on an individual basis. And there is no question that you could ask that we wouldn't be happy to answer for you. So, we hope that you will join us for other events at Southwestern, and that as the year progresses, you will think seriously about Southwestern and SCALE. And
Dean Ronick, sorry to cut you off. Before we break, we do have an additional question in the chat, and that is, any book recommendations to read before the fall semester?
We will post something on that. That's a question that we get a lot of. There are a number of questions about that. And I think we will put something up so that on our portal, right, Lisa, we can put it on our Canvas page.
Dean Rodriguez actually has some book recommendations that are on one of her pages, so we can make sure that that's linked.
Yeah, I think, one of the things that one of the students said across the board, read. I think it was Jeffrey that said that, just working your reading muscle is important to do. There is, I know the advice that we were giving years ago was just read a great complicated novel, read something that you have to really dig into and has some complexity so that, you will be accustomed to that. But
I think what you don't want to read though are your case books, right? You don't want to get your law school books and start reading them before school starts. That is a definite do not read, because not only do you not know what you're doing with those, which is probably the biggest reason why you wouldn't, but you want to give everything the chance to take its natural progression. So I would definitely tell you to not read your case books before school starts, other than whatever initial assignments are first due.
One of our alums, her name is Nikki Cohen, and she is now at Buckhalter, which is, one of the larger firms in town. She graduated 2 years ago. When she was an incoming student, she contacted me and she said, Dean Rolnick, please, could I please, find out exactly which books we're using early, and can I find out what all the syllabi say? And I said, no, because Nikki, you're going to not want to start reading ahead, a month or two ahead. And I'm going to save you from yourself. We'll make it available a couple weeks before school starts. And to this day, she still thanks me from, and I think what Lisa said, there's an inclination, there's a desire, oh my God, I'm starting law school. I have to start reading everything and make sure that I understand it. And, if I read ahead, it'll be better. It's not better at all, because you don't know exactly what you're reading for, and you're not getting any feedback along the way. There is a book that I started to say, one of our professors, his name is Ira Shafaroff. And he did a book for Barbary, Barbri, that really covers a lot of the real basics of courses. How do you read a case? How do you brief a case? How do you outline courses? And I think you can get that if you just put his name in. I think, Lisa, if you would put his name in the chat for me, Ira Shafaroff, and it's through Barbary, and it's a precursor to law school. That might be something you would look at. And then,
Are you referring to his 7 Deadly Sins of a 1L?
No, not that one, but that would be another one. And I think Austin Parrish did a book that was good for 1L. So, but that's the one that comes to mind, Ira Shafaroff, some of the books that he's done.
Dean Rolnick, if I may add, another thing that I would like to know before going to law school that would have been nice to maybe prepare, in addition to just reading, like Jeffrey said, is maybe just practice your typing speed. You're going to need that for finals. I remember I used to like chicken peck so often. So just really making sure you have your typing skills down, and then also refreshing on your grammar. That way, when you're tackling your laws paper, you're not worrying about all the grammatical functions. I was out of school for a year, so I felt like I needed to brush up on things like that. Just basic skills that prepare you in order to dive into the reading.
That's a good idea.
If I could just add something really quick, I also think that something you should do before law school, and this is going to be off the wall advice, is like absolutely nothing that has to do with law school. I think that you should spend this time, especially coming into Scale. It's weird because of Corona now, but like go on a vacation, take a weekend, like do something to yourself, spend time with your family. Like Dean Rolnick said, if you have appointments that you need to take care of, get those taken care of. Once you start Scale, the time really does fly by. And people said this to me when I first started, and I thought like, there's no way that 2 years in law school flies by. And we're almost done. We graduate in May. It flies by. So I think that before you start, do all of the things that you really enjoy doing now, because you're not, especially the first couple months of Scale, you're not going to have time to do them. So kind of like get out your system, purge yourself. Don't worry about really preparing for torts. Like don't go ahead and start reading cases. Dean Rolnick is an amazing professor. Obviously, she's going to explain things to you. You'll know what you need to know. So I would say like be very present in where you are right now. Right now, you guys are not in law school, you're preparing for it. So just like live in this universe for a little bit, because it's going to be June 2021. You're going to be like, oh crap, I'm in law school now. So I think just be very present with where you are now. I think that's very important.
Say goodbye to your families.
Yeah. I was just going to say, if I can tag onto that and say, be okay, be realistic though, and commit to the fact that once this starts, this will become your whole life. That's what it's meant to be. That's the best possible thing you can do. It's going to, it's going to be tough because your family's going to want to see you. Your friends are going to want to see you, but they will understand that this is a 2-year investment that will pay off enormously 3 years from now when your other people are still in school and you're already working. So just be okay with that.
Anything else anybody else wants to add?
Can I just stress the importance of what Bree said one last time? I've been putting off a dental procedure till winter break because there's just no time to be in pain. You know what I mean? So yeah, in addition to getting your appointments out of the way, maybe get your dental work done too.
Make that list, check it off.
Well, since we're talking about being prepared, if anyone is thinking about moving into our student housing, our residences, that application is generally available in the early spring to those who have been admitted. And usually there are some spots available for incoming Scale students to move in prior to the start of the program. If you are somebody who is coming potentially from outside of LA, that's a great option. And in keeping with getting organized, if you have the opportunity to come and kind of get yourself situated in LA, figure out where grocery stores are, where your banks would be, those kinds of things, because there may be some degree of acclimation, just to a new city that you also want to give yourselves a chance to take care of too before school starts.
And if we do start online if period 1 is in fact online and you're not on campus until August. Moving in at a later time when traditional students move into the housing is also an option for a lot of people. So that can inure to some of the, to some benefits for students as well.
Exactly. The traditional move-in is generally early August.
Okay, well, I've told you everything I know. The SCALE students, I think, have given you, some good insights. And, we'll hang around here for a little while if anybody wants to ask a question.
We will have this recording available. It may not actually be before we break, Southwestern breaks for the holidays next Friday, and our video editor is actually going to be on vacation. So it may not be available until the early part of January, but it will be on our YouTube channel, which you can link to from our admissions events page. So that's where you'll be able to find this in the future.
Kim, did you want to add anything?
Shelby has a question, so let her go ahead and ask her question before adding anything else. Shelby, how can we help you? Oh, you're muted. Okay.
Sorry, I was just typing thank you.
Oh, not a problem. So yeah, as you know, Dean Gear said, as Julie mentioned in the chat, as all the students have mentioned, we are more than available to you. We are going on break soon, but please feel free to send us an email at scale@swlaw.edu. I'll drop it in the chat again. You can also just email me directly. I'll put my email in the chat. Either way, I'll get it. You can also, our contact info is on the SCALE website if you haven't taken a look. Our FAQ is on there if you scroll to the bottom, along with those videos. So yeah, feel free to look around, and if you have any questions on any of that information, we're available.
Well, I want to wish everybody a very happy holiday season. Stay safe with your families, enjoy your families, enjoy this time together. We will be, going strong for this next week and a half. I'm booked, I think, every single day with interviews for SCALE, and look forward to, getting to know you and meeting with you one-on-one when we get back. Thank you to all of the SCALE first-year students and the second-year students who are in the middle of exams on a study day. That is such devotion. Thank you so much. And also, Suzanne, thank you very much. And Lisa and Julie and Kim for all that you do all the time.
Of course. I do want to say too, real quick, anybody that's here and is planning on applying to the SCALE program, feel free to reach out and email me for a fee waiver code. I'd be happy to provide that to you so you can apply, waiving that $60 fee.
Asher's applying.
Thank you.
Too late, Tasher. Too late.
I'll put my email in the chat. Oops.
Have a great night, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
Good night, everyone. I'm going to sign off here for everybody. Bye-bye.